These Steph moments are why NBA defenders still have nightmares. Make sure to stick around because you'll need to rewatch it over and over again to believe it. Let's kick things off with the 2022 NBA Finals that brought Steph Curry to a defining moment in his career. For years, critics questioned whether he could carry a team on the league's biggest stage, especially without the safety net of a super team. By Game 4 of the Finals against the Boston Celtics, the Warriors were down 2-1 in the series, and the pressure was mounting. Boston had built a reputation for their insane defense, with elite players like Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, who could shut down even the biggest stars. But on this night, Steph turned their defense into dust. From the opening tip, Steph attacked relentlessly. His three-point shooting was lethal, with 7 triples that left defenders scrambling in vain. The Celtics tried switching, doubling, and trapping, but nothing worked. Steph's ability to create space, whether off the dribble, coming off screens, or pulling up from seemingly impossible distances, was unstoppable. He exploited every mismatch and shredded even the best one-on-one defenders Boston had to offer. It wasn't just his perimeter shooting that overwhelmed the Celtics. Steph also worked his way into the paint, finishing through contact and forcing Boston's defense to collapse around him. When they tried to crowd the lane, he simply stepped back and drained a shot from beyond the arc. His offensive versatility was on full display, and there was no single strategy that could contain him. By the end of the game, Steph had racked up 43 points and 10 rebounds, a testament to his dominance and his expanded skill set. Boston's defenders just couldn't push Steph off his game, and the Warriors' victory that night shifted the momentum of the whole team. Up next is Steph's legendary Game 7 performance. In the 2023 NBA playoffs, Steph Curry delivered one of the most unforgettable performances in basketball history. Facing the Sacramento Kings in a high-stakes Game 7, the Warriors were at a crossroads. Sacramento had proven to be a younger, faster version of the Golden State, pushing the defending champions to their limit. But Steph rewrote the script with an offensive masterpiece that left no doubt about his greatness. The Kings came into the series with momentum and swagger, earning the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. With Mike Brown, a former Warriors assistant, at the helm, and players like De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis leading the charge, they built a reputation as one of the league's biggest threats. But when Sacramento took the first 2 games of the series, fans began to wonder if the Warriors' days as a dynasty were over. Steph responded with a clear no. By Game 7, the series was tied, but the Kings had a home court advantage. Sacramento's fans were ready to celebrate, but Steph turned their excitement into stunned silence. From the opening quarter, he was in complete control, torching the Kings' defense with a mix of crafty layups, pinpoint mid-range shots, and his signature deep threes. Sacramento threw everything they had at him: switches, double teams, and physical defenders, but none of it mattered. Steph found gaps where none seemed to exist, creating scoring opportunities out of thin air. His shot chart for the game was a masterpiece, with buckets coming from every corner of the half court. The Kings couldn't contain him in transition, on isolations, or off the ball. He carved up their defense with a level of precision that bordered on surgical, finishing the game with 50 points, the most ever scored in a Game 7. What made this performance even more extraordinary was how Steph dismantled Sacramento's defensive schemes. When they pressured him at the perimeter, he drove into the lane for crafty finishes. When they collapsed inside, he pulled up threes that sucked the energy out of his opponents. Sacramento's rising star, De'Aaron Fox, had been one of the most clutch players in the league all season, but that day he was simply outclassed. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Warriors had secured a 120-100 victory, and Steph had etched his name in the record books. Of course, this wasn't the first time he put up an offensive masterclass. By the time the 2015 Western Conference Finals rolled around, the Houston Rockets were riding high. They had just completed an improbable comeback, rallying from a 3-1 deficit to knock out the championship-caliber Clippers team. Entering the series against the Warriors, the Rockets carried momentum and confidence, but Steph Curry had other plans. The first 2 games in Oakland were tight, but when the series shifted to Houston for Game 3, Steph unleashed a masterpiece. He dismantled the Rockets' defense with surgical precision, scoring 40 points while shooting a blistering 7 for 9 from beyond the arc. His overall field goal percentage of 63.2% highlighted just how unstoppable he was that night. Houston's defenders, no matter who they threw at him, had no answers. Whether it was pulling up from deep, driving into the paint, or effortlessly navigating screens, Steph turned every possession into a nightmare for the Rockets. With each made three-pointer, the energy drained from the Toyota Center crowd. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Warriors had secured a dominant 115-80 victory, taking a commanding 3-0 series lead. While Houston had some of the best regular season records during this era, they could never solve the puzzle that was Steph Curry. And the Portland Trail Blazers faced a similar dilemma 5 years later. The 2020-2021 NBA season was highly unusual. The offseason was shrunk due to the previous postseason games in the NBA bubble that ended in August 2020. In the first week of January 2021, the Golden State Warriors were also off to an unusual start, as they could barely get to a 500 record. There was also uncertainty about whether they were still contenders, as there were talks of breaking up the team. To add fuel to the fire, a man named Damian Lillard was now being called Logo Lillard. This was because of his ability to shoot from near half court on a regular basis. Fans and analysts could argue at the same time that Lillard was a better franchise centerpiece than Curry. He was basically a younger version that could do everything on the court. In their second meeting of the season, Curry destroyed the Trailblazers and Lillard. From the opening tip, Curry was in attack mode. He had dropped 21 points in the first quarter alone, hitting deep threes and finishing with fearless drives to the basket. By halftime, he had already racked up 30 points, and his teammates made sure he knew exactly how close he was to breaking his personal best. He delivered on that promise with a dominant second half, finishing 18 of 31 from the field and sinking 8 of 16 from beyond the arc. Even Portland's 7-foot Yusuf Nurkic couldn't stop Curry from taking it straight to the rim. The victory, a 137-122 win, was a team effort, but Curry was the clear star. His 62 points set the tone for the season and reminded everyone why he's the GOAT. But his 2016 performance holds a special place in the hearts of fans. When the Warriors faced the Thunder in Game 7 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, everything was on the line. Golden State had clawed their way back from a 3-1 deficit, but the ultimate test lay ahead. And in true MVP fashion, Steph Curry answered the call. After a slow start to the series, Curry found his rhythm in this decisive showdown. At the end of the first half, he provided a spark with a dazzling buzzer beater off the glass, cutting the Thunder's lead to 6. But what happened after halftime was pure magic. Curry came out firing, leading a 17-6 run that completely flipped the game's momentum. He drained 3 triples in rapid succession, erasing Oklahoma City's lead and putting the Warriors in control. Curry knocked down threes over Steven Adams like the big man wasn't even there. He weaved through defenders, creating just enough space to unleash his signature deep bombs, and those weren't just daggers, they were morale crushers. Every time the Thunder tried to push back, Curry was there to shut the door. By the end, Curry and Klay Thompson combined for 13 three-pointers, with the Warriors sinking 17 as a team.